Hello again, ladies and gents. Welcome back to episode 3 of Mission Consciousness, the podcast. And today I'm with the one and only Dane Muller from Heartled Warriors, all the way from down under. I've asked Dane to come on the show today because we actually run very similar kind of businesses and programs. We're literally on other sides of the world. We both have our own different stories, but I wanted Dane to come on the show today to share everything about his story and how he went from not so much a heart-led warrior into running such an emphatic business now with his wife Nadine, where they run retreats for men and women from all over Australia and the world who come to them and they carry out the most amazing transformational experiences. Welcome to the show, Dane.
Mate, thank you very much for having me. Absolute pleasure to be here and having another deep conversation with you. We got to share the screen not so long ago on a live, and the amount of people I had from your community reach out and um, again offer support to us and the thing was just amazing. So yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No, honestly, mate, it's awesome. And that's you mentioned the word community there. Even since our last conversation, our communities have risen quite a lot, and I think it's down to just where people are at right now, aren't they? I think we're at this
Mm.
this unbelievable time in human history where people are really starting to come out of their shells and like discover who they are, and taking that step forward from a transformational perspective and attending retreats like you guys run. But is it all right to just share with the public kind of like your story and how you went from, many years ago, kind of battling all the time to actually like showing the guys and girls what you can actually do?
100%, mate. Look, I found healing or the path to healing and growth through sharing my story. So it's hugely pivotal part of my journey. And that was when I first started talking about my mental health and lots of different things. And uncovering more about myself, I uncovered more repressed memories and things like that along the way too. And one really recently, actually. So I was challenged through most of my life from a very young age with suicidal ideation. Earliest memories I can remember is when I was around 8 years old, when I had these thoughts and feelings come up through me. It wasn't so much that I wanted to kill myself. I just thought the world would be better off without me. There was a lot of things. I was a really great young athlete, had lots of opportunities on sporting arenas and things like that. And when I succeeded, that's how I thought I received love. When I didn't succeed, I didn't feel I deserved love and was pretty hard on myself. And that's how that unraveled. So pretty young age to have those thoughts and feelings. And I know that if I was having them, there's a lot of other young people having them too, which is unfortunate. And look, just not talked about enough, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. So
Mm.
yeah, grew up with a life of suicidal ideation. I actually was was dealt with sexual abuse from a young age too, as a 5-year-old. That was part of my story, which I've only just found that was a repressed memory for myself. That's only recently arisen
Mm.
as well, which was really interesting. Moving on in life, I battled depression, anxiety, all the labels that society likes to give us. I was given the medications and all of the things, and that started mid 20s into my 30s until got to a point where I was also my wife and I had a really traumatic childbirth with our second child, and I thought from one time that I was going to walk out of that hospital as a widowed father. I thought I was going to lose my wife and lose my son,
Wow.
and just be me, my eldest son. So that took a toll on me as well. The post traumatic stress from that diagnosed post traumatic stress, and which added to the depression and the anxiety and the suicidal ideation and all the things, and was absolutely ruining my relationship with my wife and ruining my business and all of those things. And then at the time, I was in seeing professional help, psychs, counselors, marriage counselors, all the things. They were just offering band-aids basically, weren't what we needed. Everything has its place though. It just wasn't right for us. And I kept the post-traumatic stress and my suicidal ideation from everyone for my entire life, and from my wife and I for the first 8 years of us being together. And when I finally opened up about my post-traumatic stress, um, there was a huge relief and weight lifted off my shoulders. There was a relief within my wife too, because she realized it wasn't her, which was a huge piece. So,
Mm.
uncovering that post-traumatic stress, it led to the other diagnoses of depression, anxiety, all the things, medications. And then I started using that as an excuse. I was like, oh, I'm okay. That's okay because I've got depression. I've got anxiety. I'm okay to treat people this way because of this. And I didn't like that about myself.
Mm.
So I actually took myself off the medication because I figured that I'd lived a life without using medication and dealt with it better. Why do I need it now? So I took myself off that. And it was in that unraveling that led to me diving into some self-development work or some inner work holistically. And I got to face some shadows and some demons and some things like that. And during some of these programs and experiences that I was having and doing, there's some men's work brought into the room, and there was a moment of complete freedom from myself and the most connected I've ever been to myself at the same time.
Beautiful.
And it was like at that point, I can put myself back in that room every single moment. I get a body full of goosebumps thinking about it, because it was at that moment I'm like, I have to share this with everyone. If this is what life is supposed to feel like, everyone deserves to feel like this.
Mm.
My wife had been deep into the work for some months before me. She was leading the way with that, which helped me on my path. And it was then that I said, I'm joining this. I'm doing this with you. And Heartled Warriors was created basically right there. And then 6 weeks later, we had our first retreat, and the journeys continue.
Brilliant. And it's I think the key word there you said is about connection, connection to
Mm.
yourself. And
Yep.
that's the one thing that we see en masse in, especially in Western society, is just billions of people disconnected. They're disconnected from themselves. We all go through like rigorous programming from birth, don't we? Like
Yep.
into what society thinks we should be, and our parents have obviously been through rigorous programming as well. So we tend to like get the offcuts of that, or we get their programming projected onto us. Excuse me, and those traits come up in us, don't they? Like I've lived through that myself. I've lived a life through many traits of my parents, like, and it's only when you recognize that and you truly start connecting with yourself and you disconnect from those medications or those labels, um, that you really start to find yourself, and that your lens just becomes so much wider, doesn't it? You just see the world in such a different place, um, and you really start like facing those shadows, doing that inner
Mm.
work as we talk about. And
Yep.
then when you're standing there, like in that dark room on your own, facing all your shadows, it's like that's where the real work is. And a lot of people are actually like scared of doing that, aren't they? And it's that's what stops people, that holds them back. And I'm sure you find that like by running your retreats, like one of the biggest things stopping people coming sooner is that ability to be able to stand there and actually face your own shadow, your own demons, and actually say, yes, I've got work
Yep.
to do.
Most people are operating from a place of fear
Mm.
within their life. So all decisions are based on fear, which is the scarcity mindset, right? So everyone's operating from fear, fear of judgment, fear of looking bad, all those types of things, which either can drive them to doing things. A lot of people are very successful from a fear-based driver, though a lot of people won't do anything because of that fear. And most people are, everyone thinks comfortable's good, right? Comfortable's fucked.
Yeah.
Like comfortable, like people in Australia, the Australian dream is to own your own home. And it's a great thing to have, but that's from the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Mm.
It puts people here in so much debt and challenge these days that like the Australian dream right now is mediocrity, which is like what type of space is that to live from? So you can continue to live and operate from fear and not do the things and stay in that comfort of lack, or you can actually choose to step into that and do something for yourself and feel what life gets to feel like on the other side. And what is the worst that could happen? You go back to doing exactly what 90% of people are doing anyway, and that's what you were doing before.
Mm, yeah, exactly. And it's the same blueprint in every country. Whether it's Australia, New Zealand, UK, Europe, United States, Canada. It's the same blueprint in every country. It's again, it comes from our parents and their, especially our parents and at this age group where you've got to own your own home, you've got to go to university, and you've got to do this to get the best paid job, etc., because that's all they've ever known. And all that does, it just encapsulates you in this horrible bubble, a spiral as well of debt. And you don't actually really own your home because what happens when you don't pay your mortgage? The bank threatens to take it off you. So if you own your home, how can someone repossess it? Um,
Yeah.
so you're just engulfed in this debt all the time. And the way things are in all the same countries as well, like what's happened over the last 5 years, especially, it's pushed so many people to the breadline that they just end up in these huge debt cycles,
Mm.
which they can't afford to live. It's terrible in the UK at the minute, and that in itself is literally destroying the hearts of many,
Yeah.
especially men. And tradies, but like there's so many people in Australia tradies, aren't they? And it's like a lot of them are feeling right now that they just got to go to work on the tools to pull a wage to pay their ridiculous bills because they're caught up in all these cycles. And then all that does is completely disconnect them from tapping into their actual self and what they can actually achieve outside of all of that. And like you're
Yeah.
saying, like if you don't go on that journey, what's the worst that can happen? You can go back to what you were doing, but you've got a much wider lens, bigger heart, and you're
Yeah.
recognizing you can see it all.
Go back to being comfortable. At least if you face your shadow, face those demons, and actually hold yourself accountable for all of the choices you've made in your life, you're actually probably going to go back and enjoy your life a whole lot more than what you were before anyway.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. And one of the things which I found, especially with the guys, is that, and and I'm sure it's very much similar to yourselves. When you get a lot of guys come to you for your retreats and that, a lot of us, because of this generational sort of patterns that we've been through, a lot of us like weren't really nurtured as kids. Like we weren't like loved as like cuddled and things like that. Whereas like, and we didn't receive a lot of wisdom. I found as well, like the majority of guys I speak to, like don't necessarily receive much wisdom from their parents. They always got it from their grandparents, that were around at the
Mm.
time of the war and things like that. And they were open
Yeah.
to sharing all that wisdom all the time. And they didn't buy into all the distractions and things like that. Whereas I think our generation's parents are very much like engulfed in all that that change, weren't they? Between and so we get a lot of that generational trauma like waged upon us, and then it stays
Yeah.
in the body, doesn't it? And then we just live like this, like bouncing vibrational like mess, really, because we're just full of all this like confusion, anxiety, and traumas that we never face. And it's only
Yeah.
when you really step out of that and acknowledge it and challenge it and face it, is when you actually release it. And then what's on the other side is pure transformation. And that's exactly what you get out of your retreats, isn't it?
100%, mate. Yeah. Look, there's a lot of data and research around generational trauma now. It's actually passed on through DNA or energy, as we like to
Mm,
say. And like it's no one's fault because everyone was just doing what they thought they were supposed to do
mm,
or what they were shown to do or modeled to do, and that's just come down. And unfortunately and unfortunately, it's the generation now, us and younger, that are faced with, like, there's a worldwide epidemic of suicide and depression and anxiety, and that is all because all of this from like continued from like seven generations back, 7 generations forward, of this of wars and like we go past lives if you would like to as well,
mm.
but it's all been passed through us and it's all coming to the forefront now with all of these symptoms of depression and anxiety and all those thoughts and feelings that everyone's having. And it's up to us now to break those generational curses
Yep.
that have been passed through us. Because I know that I'm not going to pass it on to my children. They can have their own traumas, though they won't receive mine. They won't
Mm.
receive my family's. They won't receive my wife's because we've stopped that. Yes, there's probably something that they're going to be challenged with in life. I actually wish them challenge because it's where the challenge is, where the growth is. So the more men, I think men definitely, women have been leading the way in this work for a while, and men
Yeah,
are
long time.
slowly coming around. We've got evidence of more men coming into it. We're filling our retreats months in advance, which is beautiful because they're slowly realizing that how they were shown to do life by their fathers or grandfathers isn't how they want to show life to their children or how they want to continue to living life. So yes, they get to come to our retreats or our online programs or our breathwork sessions to remove these thoughts, feelings, triggers, traumas, the energy in them that's been passed on through to them at these spaces.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's what would you say is the most common issue that the guys come to you with, like that they feel they're really suffering? You know, when they open up and they're really, truly honest about what they've been through. What would you say is the most common thing that you find in
Uh,
the men?
they don't love themselves.
Mm.
That's like it all. They can say anger, they can say sadness, and they can say all the things. There was a question I always ask at the beginning of the treat: Who put your hand up if you actually love yourself? No one ever puts their hand up. That's the big issue.
Yeah.
Who told men in particular, and it's women too, though, who told men in particular that they couldn't love themselves? It used to be a thing at school. You go, like if you were proud of yourself or you cop shit from your mates. So it's that tall poppy syndrome
Yeah.
a big thing here in Australia of not being proud of yourself because you're worried about what others might think.
Mm.
And it starts from a young age and it's what we're shown through our families and parents. And it's just a huge lack of self-love from men and a lack of fucking, like I've been on this a lot lately and the lack of support from men
Yeah.
for men. Like, I'm sure you get it too, though. My DMs and my comments it's just sad
Mm.
because, again, I'm not sure what the numbers are in the UK, but here it's 9 suicides a day, seven of those are men.
Yeah. They're very, very
That's not
similar,
going to
but
change.
very similar. But obviously, percentage or ratio wise, obviously, is men outweigh it like massively.
75%, I think 75% is basically worldwide, um, is men, suicide rate for men. And the biggest hurdle for men is men. Like I'm going to say 99% of the ordinary comments are from men. And I like to think of it as if, like, I make sense if people see what we do and it's not for them. That's okay. And it's not for everyone. They may find what they want to do through somewhere else, if it's like traditional therapies or whatever. Or if they don't want to do it, that's fine. If they love their life and they don't do it, that's cool. But what's so triggering for people to see other people doing something for themselves or wanting to better themselves, to have to take their time and comment and use profanity and all of the things. I'm not just things will never change. I'm going to say it's going to be the same for the men in UK. Things will never change until there's more support for men from men,
Mm.
because I've been in conversations where I've called people forward. I'm like, cool. What happens if your son goes to therapy and it's not working for him, and he sees something like we do, or it could be through somewhere else, and he won't go because you've made a comment on a post, and then in 2 weeks' time he takes his life.
Mm. Yeah.
Like, because that's the reality of it. Men won't do things in the fear of judgment, especially if it's from someone that they hold dearly to them, nearly to themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exactly the same here in the UK, exactly the same in most places. And a lot of the time, men who do comment on social posts, it's actually because the post actually resonates with them, but their comment is just their triggers. It's like
Yes.
it's not us that's like triggering them. It's their own triggers. It's their own issues that they can't face. So they react the way they do. That's literally all it is, and you can see it everywhere. I see a lot
Mm.
of guys that are very much getting into the healing space, the plant medicine space, and stuff like that. and all the derogatory comments on their posts are all from guys,
Yep.
because that person who's posted it is actually doing the work, and they're not willing to do it. And it's like it's their inability to step forward and actually face their own shadow and actually go, I need to sort my shit out. They're not willing to do. So the easiest thing to do is like twiddle your thumbs on your keyboard,
Mm.
and post some derogatory, like to quote unquote make yourself feel better while you're in that comfort zone, when
Yeah.
it's just literally your own triggers that you need to sort out.
Yeah.
And that's what every guy and girl, it's the same across the board. But once you look past that and you support people, like you're coming from a heart space. The minute you start supporting someone, you're actually coming from a heart space, and that's
Yeah.
where that we've had this big issue. The hearts of many have been closed, which is why it's so great that like you do what you do in Oz, and me and Corin do what we do here with bar retreats. It's opening the hearts of many,
Yeah.
and as soon as like you accept that you need to open your heart more, and you live your life from a heart space, your whole life will change, because you're putting out that vibration, you're creating that resonance, like which then brings everything that you actually want into your field, into your life.
Mm.
The universal changes to start happening all over the place. You'll witness it with your men and women like constantly, and the aftermath as well. Like what suddenly starts happening to them afterwards is next level.
The ripple effect of people doing this work for themselves, whether it's through us or you or whoever they get to do it through or choose to do it through, the ripple effect that they see, if their families, their any relationships, working relationships, all of it, their businesses. We've had lots of people come through and do this work who are hugely successful in business, and it's their life outside of business that isn't going quite well for them, and they come into this for self-expansion, and then they do this, and then their business just explodes even more. Like it's the universe will work with you when you, again, like you're saying, when you open your heart up to all of it, where you hold yourself accountable, you face these triggers, and it's. I mean, I know that you've seen it time and time again, but it will never cease to amaze me, and I'll always be excited about it because I get to see the 15 men that were on our last retreat go home and be with their family, and the stories that they're telling me of how they're connecting with their 12 and 13-year-old sons. And it's just, how could you not want to experience this work or continue to provide this work as well?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think what's great for me is that when deep down you've gone through such a massive transformation in yourself, you know, I've gone from soldier to shamanic practices. Do you know what I mean? That's like a whole different world. You know what I mean? It's completely different. And I always joke and say like, you would have caught me in the mess going like, yeah, lads, I'm gonna have an early one tonight. Like planning on doing a big meditation in the morning. Like that just wouldn't happen. So
Yeah.
it's great that there's people out there that, like you're saying, like as soon as you start making those changes yourself and you see it within yourself, you start living it, and that becomes your daily rule book. Like we're showing people, like, and
Mm.
and in every shape or form, what it all comes down to is that like we're not healing people, we're never healing people. We're just showing them that they are the greatest medicine, and they will always be the greatest medicine. They just got to fully understand that. But you do that by taking your power back, not giving it away to a doctor or a scientist or to
Yeah.
your devices, the media. You're taking all your power back, which is part of reclaiming your sovereignty. But when you start doing that, that's when you really start unlocking the warrior aspect of yourself.
Mm.
You actually really start unlocking the masculine aspect of yourself, the feminine aspect of yourself, and all the other aspects that we have deep within us, within our DNA, just start activating left, right, and center. So then you're this like sculpted, heart centered being that just wants to live a heart centered life. And then as a
Yeah.
result of that, everything starts coming to you. And, and like you're saying, the people that we have on our retreats and yourself, like, are now living that life. And,
Mm.
that in itself must be a huge rewarding thing for you and Nadine, like week in, week out.
It is hugely rewarding. I mean, we also run couples retreats and couples programs and
Mm.
experiences and everything as well. And just, I think society has made it so easy for people to wave the white flag. And it's nice to be that difference and show, because Nadine and I were very close to waving the white flag ourselves. So
Mm.
like one of our counselors had said, you guys should look at separating. But and there was something in us that we knew that no, that's not right. And we continued on. And knowing what we know now and showing what we show now is a beautiful thing to see these men, women, and couples who were ready to wave the white flag, shown something different, that it is possible, because we were in a horrible place uh, in our individual lives and in our marriage. And for us to come back and create and do what we do and living the life we live now just goes to show how what's possible,
Mm.
what
Yep.
is possible. So yes, seeing this, getting the messages will never grow old. It will never grow old. We love seeing it, and we love seeing it in their children and their families as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one of the most magical things as well, is when you can, not only help the person do the inner work, to realize they are their greatest asset,
Mm.
but then they take all those energies and they literally like create the magic within their own family. Um, and that is a fundamental thing, a fundamental program in so much of society where, and it's the same in Australia and everywhere else, where you're rushing your kid out the door at like 6:30, or you're getting your kid up 6:30 in the morning to get to school early, so you can get out to work, to get taxed on absolutely everything. The whole family dynamic's completely split up, but you've got your house, your mortgage, and everything else like that, but you're not spending any time as a family together. There's that real raw love within the family household like doesn't really exist, because by the time you get home from work and the kids have had to do the homework, they're in their own rooms on their devices, like chatting to whoever while the parents are downstairs, just sat there next to each other watching Netflix,
Yeah.
binge watching.
It's yeah, again, like we said at the beginning, there's a huge disconnection from self, and with that disconnection from self, there's no connection to anyone, any of your loved ones, and that's evident. I mean, we were saying what's hugely missing, or what's the issue challenge for men when they come into the retreats, and the women. It's the lack of connection and intimacy from their parents
Mm,
as children, and their parents were just doing what they could, though we've seen it time and time again that we know that it's like, for us, children need both their parents to be there and have that devoted and intentional time to them. Yes, we make sense that people have jobs and they go to work. However, how can you create some more intentional time with your family, connection, intimate, like people hear intimacy and they think about sexual relationships. Though
mm,
intimacy and connection with your, there's nothing more beautiful than an intimate connection with your children.
yeah.
Like there's so much missing. And I mean, I wish we could shake people to help them realize it'd be really great, because what we can see and what we know and the life that we used to live compared to what we live now is it's a complete 180. And I know that my children are the greatest um, beneficiaries of that, of the work of me choosing myself day in, day out. My children are the beneficiaries of that. And I know that when they grow up and if they ever have challenges, it's not going to be because they didn't get to spend time with their parents or intentional time with their parents.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And and you can see it sadly, because because there's that disconnection, kids then just turn to attention to something else, which is often like all these devices. So you're literally
Mm.
seeing everywhere you go, just kids plugged into like phones or iPads or whatever. But again, it's like they're just sourcing all their information and like anything outside of themselves. So the kids are being massively disconnected because they're just
Mm.
mirroring, the parents. And
Yep.
it's a really massive task for us to get in there and cut that off, and show people. And that's what's the important thing is, we don't tell people, we're just showing people
That's
by
it.
having done the work ourselves, and running the businesses that we do. And look, when the kids actually fully understand that, they then will go on, you know, a good path. They're not going to go down the wrong way. They're not going to seek love because they're not getting it from their parents, just like, you
Mm.
know, many of us didn't. And it's, you know, it's that we need to, like you're saying, break these generational traumas and these generational patterns and these ego patterns, to get everybody, whether it's man, woman, or child, to basically stand up and take accountability for themselves and take themselves on a transformational journey. Because they're, you know, really, there's not a huge difference in age, and you know, you've got to be a certain age to go on this path or experience certain levels of trauma, or do you know what I mean? It's just that in itself is a fallacy. It all starts like within today. You know, it's, you just got to be able to look at yourself and go like, am I connected to myself? Like, do I
Yeah,
love myself? Like you said before. And if you can't answer them questions, then you've got work to do, and it's just a case of identifying like what areas of your life you need to make those changes.
yeah.
Um, I know we talked about the men quite a lot, but with the women, you know, like the women have been literally propping us guys up for like aeons. You know, I'm going to the protest in London like at the start of COVID in 2020, and it was literally about 80% female there. You know, and it gradually got better, and
Mm.
it's got a lot better in the last year in the UK. You know, even within like the, you know, they're like talking about politics, but even within the political sector, there's actually real men out there that are standing up now, going, I want to take over. You know, we've got ex-military that want to become the London mayor and things like that. You know, so regardless of what your thoughts are on politics, we know it's all bullshit, but there's actually, you know, there's big signs of like that masculinity starting to come through. But with the females, you know, they've been having to like really prop up that masculine energy as well as being on their own journeys. Like when you run the women's retreats, like what did you say is the biggest thing that they or struggle that they have?
The biggest challenge that we find for women is them not feeling safe in their feminine
Mm,
because they haven't been held safely by the masculine from a man. There's a lot of hurt that men do to women throughout, like as a collective, men, we have not been doing a good enough job
yeah.
for our women. And we need to lead better. And this, I'm hand up for myself here too. We need to lead better for our women so they can feel safe in their feminine. That is the number one challenge. Yes, there's lots of other circumstances for that, though. The number one challenge is for the ladies to feel safe in their own feminine, which is again really sad that they can't because biologically, yes, or the men and masculine and feminine energies, we both have them. I don't know who called them masculine and feminine, probably because they're not gendered.
Mm,
So though biologically men suit sitting in their masculine because we're bigger and stronger, we're the protectors, we're the providers. So it suits us to be in the masculine a little more, and yet to beautifully flow through our feminine energy as well. Where women, they're more intuitive and flowy and loving and all of those things, and that's the feminine. And for them not to be able to experience that fully is so sad because there's nothing more beautiful than watching a woman in her beautiful feminine flow.
yeah.
All of it. So that is a challenge. And we used to, and we still do, we used to I used to get messages from women um, that would kick back against us hosting women's retreats. And yes, there are women, my wife and another female facilitator that run these women's retreats. Though I used to get a little bit of some messages around what would men know about hosting a women's retreat. Well, I know a little bit, and it's because no one can heal a masculine wound by a female.
Hmm.
So the men in their divine masculine have to be there for the women to feel safe in the masculine from a man so they can learn to feel safe in their feminine again. And it's the same reason why we bring the ladies onto our men's retreats because I can't heal a feminine wound where my wife can be that
Yeah,
person for someone.
yeah, absolutely, man. It's exactly the same here. You know,
Mm.
when I run our men's retreats, obviously we start the morning by running a cambo session, which is, you know, huge for guys, and the guys really purge like so much emotion. And like because of the like the energy work that I do, um and the shamanic side of it, like I literally feel these guys' emotions, you know, when they're literally purging all that stuff out of them, those
Mm.
childhood traumas. We're getting a lot of ex-military guys come to us as well, so you know there's a lot of trauma around there. But like it's run by me and Corin, and you know like so they feel held by that feminine energy,
Yep.
and that loving energy like in that space. And like I always say it, like I've never met anybody like in person who holds space like she does. Like she's phenomenal, you know.
Mm.
Even as we're recording this, we've got clients in. You know, it's absolutely magical, and it works so perfectly. Like you know, you and Nadine will on yours, and you're exactly right. It's and this is why our female warrior retreats coming up are like filling up faster than the guys ones, because I think they can see that there's that really great balance. Whereas I think the guys are just slower at stepping forward and going, yeah, all right, okay, I'm ready to face my demons now.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it was like when I first created the men's retreat, I didn't have a women's retreat in mind.
Mm,
And it was only because I was getting messages and messages and messages from women. Hey, do you do this for women? And I'm like, we will. And it was like around that time where I'm like, oh, this isn't men's work. This is everyone's work.
mm,
Because there was a clear distinction for me at the time, or how I saw it at the time, that this type of work, the anger release and the breath work and what we do on the men's retreat was men's work. It's fucking everyone's work.
yeah, yeah.
Everyone who wants to do this work deserves to do it.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. And have you had people from previous retreats like come to you afterwards, like to want to get into the same line of work that you guys do?
Oh, yes, massively. So there's a number of men and women that will be in transition from one career to another, and they're not 100% sure knowing what they're doing. And then they'll come and feel this work, do this work, and then want to provide this work because of what it's done for them. A number of men that are now full-time breathwork
Yeah.
facilitators and uh, uh, creating their own brand and providing this work. And it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, yeah, and it's great. And we're running our first facilitator course in June, because because we do live events as well, not just our retreats. You know, we hold them in very much like a ceremonial fashion,
Mm.
kind of like what we do on our actual medicine retreats in Portugal. So it gives people a bit of a taster of that. But again, it's giving them the opportunity to sit in their own space and releasing it what no longer serves them. You know, through sound and breath,
Yep.
vibration. We do toning. We serve like certain plant medicines like hape and sananga and stuff like that. So it gives people a bit of a taster of everything. But this is why we were like, well, it's only two of us here kind of really doing that here in the UK.
Mm.
Like we need to get it out there. We've seen the power of it, just like
Yep.
you were learning. So we're running our first facilitator course for that reason. So it's actually the people that have done our courses and done our uh, actual either the retreats or been to the live events who want to do it because they see the power of it.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
obviously they'll have their own spin on it and be fully supported and things like that. But that, like you said, they're in that transformational period of like career changes, or you know they're just sick of the 9 to 5 or sick of that lifestyle. And then they know that there's so much more, and there's so
Yeah.
much more out there to be had and to live, isn't there?
Yeah, that's it. I host a lot of breathworks via Zoom now as well. I've done so many different facilitation courses, and I just want to know more and learn more so I can provide more. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've got ladies that I jump onto Nadine's monthly portal online platform and provide a breath work. And generally, they're only a 20 to 25-minute breath work. However, there'll be ladies that have never experienced breath come into these spaces and do it. And then I'll get a message the next day, what do I need to do to become a breathwork facilitator? After a 20-minute, I'm like, do more breath,
Mm,
do more. Like if you're feeling like that after a 20-minute breath work, sit in breath for an hour and 20 minutes, and then come back to me and tell me how much you want to be a breathwork facilitator as well.
yeah. Yeah, and it's I remember doing my first ever breathwork sessions a few years back, and it was a holotropic breathwork session, and I was just like, you know, just the usual guy, you know, like doing it like, yeah, oh, you know, what's the worst that can happen? And I remember wearing a grey t-shirt, and it was literally a different color. Like at the
Yeah.
end, it was just like all these old emotions, as tears, as we know, it's just emotion leaving the body, just literally
Yeah.
swelled my t-shirt, and I was just like an absolute mess at the end of it. But I was just like the energy within the body. I was just like, what the fuck just happened to me? You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, again, that was a huge transformational period in my life, and I always thank the people that delivered that session, because that kick-started like part of like my own journey into what we do
Mm.
now, and as I'm sure it is for yourself. I can only imagine your first ever
Oh yeah,
breathwork session
I
would have been
can
huge.
put myself in my first holotropic breathwork session as well, and that's what cracked me wide open for knowing that there's a spiritual side to myself.
Mm,
Again, spirituality can mean lots of different things to lots of different people, and they're all right. Whether it's religion or whatever deity you might believe in, or if
mm,
it's just the universe or self, they're all right. Whatever's right for you is right for you. I'm never going to push my beliefs onto someone. I just share what I share. And it was through breath that what I saw and witnessed and felt, I'm just like, nothing can explain that. Science can't explain that. I was in different realms. I had visits from past loved ones and all of the things. And that was my first ever session. So I came out of it and was just like, what is this? Like that, there was no drugs taken, there was nothing, and I was able to access what I accessed through that. How have I not known about this earlier?
yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, because it's like it's always especially around men, it's always been like defined as woo woo, isn't it? But breathwork in itself is like the biggest growing modality out there, and has been since I think
Mm.
about 2018,
Yep.
from what I've read. And at the end of the day, breath is the qualifications to life. We you have to breathe to live. So
Yep.
like, why not make the most of it? And I was
100%.
having a conversation with my dad about this last week when I was talking to him about, I just suggested getting into meditation because he had a knee injury and stuff like that, and we talked about self healing and things, and he's at a point in his life where he's seen his brother die from like turbo cancer, other people in his family heart attacks, like all shot related, and he very much like was like, oh, I don't want to be go down any of that route now. I can see mainstream pharmaceuticals and mainstream medical industry for what it is. So I was really talking to him about the power of the minds and the connection between the minds and the body, and then at a deep soul level. And then bless him, he always like refers back to things that my granddad always said. He was like, "Yeah, Dad always used to say that," and I was like, "Listen to your dad." Like, um, because the good old man, great man behind me there on the painting, like he's just like so much pearls of wisdom.
Yeah.
And he used to say all this stuff, and it is great to have this conversation with my dad. And he's actually starting to take some time out now, to and just take 10 minutes a day to quote unquote meditate. And again, that's
Yep.
another thing that's been made woo woo, hasn't it? It's like when I speak to guys, and I'm sure you've had these conversations. There's our old mental concept of sitting in meditation is like we need to have a cloak on with a crystal strapped to our head with a staff, like sat on a rock, like on a cliff or something. Um, when in fact it's literally just us centering ourselves, cutting out the distractions, and just like being at one with your own like thoughts and feelings, and feeling things within the body, because
Yep.
everything outside of us is literally to keep us outside of us. Like it's just huge
Yeah.
distraction. Um,
It's just, yeah, being still.
yeah.
Meditation is being still. Meditation can come in so many different forms.
Mhm.
Like I believe in vibration, right? So I know a lot of men that love mowing their lawn, and I know it has something to do with the vibration for them, connection to like
Mm.
we're missing our connection to land, and so many men want to mow their lawn. They'll complain about it, but they want to do it because of how they feel after. And
Yeah.
it's not, and yes, it's accomplishment, and they get to see their nice green grass or cutting nice and looks like a golf course. However, it's the vibration coming through them, and they're in a meditative state while they mow their lawn.
Yeah.
No, so meditation looks so different for so many different people, and yeah, it can be woo woo if you want it to be, though. It doesn't have to be either. It's whatever you want. I think that's the biggest thing with any kind of work is people try and put it all in a box,
Yeah.
keep you confined in that box. What if it just gets to be and it doesn't have to be in a box? And there's no rules to growth work. There's no rules to spirituality. Like who am I to say to someone, that what they believe in isn't right, or what I believe in is what they should believe in. Again, I'm open to it all because listening and feeling and hearing other people's opinions about something may just change my opinion and then open something up for me.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that is a big reason as to why I share. I'll never push my thoughts and feelings on it. I always share my spiritual experiences just to help people become more aware, and they get to choose from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, obviously, I teach meditation as a big part of what I do, and I take live meditations on a Monday night, and they're always differently themed. And everyone gets what they need from it. Just like when people come to live events, like they'll come to your retreats, like each individual will get what they need, at the spiritual level that they're kind of at and working in within. You know, I did one about connecting to Christ consciousness the other day because it's a big thing that's happening worldwide at the minute. There's a lot of
Mm.
activation within people, and very aware of that and feeling it myself. So I did a meditation on that, and obviously, like some people, like revisited loved ones from the past. Some people saw themselves getting like white gold poured over them. And it's like everyone experiences like something completely
Mm.
different. There's no one size fits all.
No.
Just like your work around certain with breathwork, for example, the one person to the next person, the next person, all have a different experience because we're all having a different human experience.
Yeah. 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 100%. Yeah. It's I think well, I know that one of the cool things to watch and witness is when people come into this work and they have no idea about it, which is great, that blank canvas. And there's always that question of, am I doing it right? Doing it how you're supposed to be doing it. They're so caught up in their heads because they're so used to living by rules and structure and all of this thing,
Mm,
all of those types of things that they're like, am I doing this right? Just like with breath work in particular, am I doing it right? You're just breathing.
yeah,
You're just breathing. You're a professional breather. You've been doing it since you were born. Just breathe. So
yeah,
yeah, it's great. And after it's great to see them on the other side of doing that and the experience that they have, whether that's look, whether that's letting go of whatever pain is in their body to whatever visual experiences they might have. And
yeah.
then again, they're just like they get the message, whether that's straight after the session or 3 or 4 days later.
Mm. Yeah, and it doesn't always come like then, does it? Because this is why we always, our live events, even though it's not an ayahuasca retreat or such, where it's really important to integrate and things like that. It's still just as important to integrate like after breathwork sessions,
Mm.
because you've got to like sit and revisit and just process what you've been through, because you might have shed some emotion, big things might have come up for you, but it's come there for a reason to be observed, sometimes often to be cleared. So we just need to be observant of that and just like allow ourselves to process it, because we don't experience those kind of experiences in a day-to-day life when you're at work. You don't just sit there
Mm.
and start bawling your eyes out all the time because like something's just came up for you, because you're often distracted. So it's
Yeah.
important to process all the time, and it can take a number of days. And then because we're divine computers, the hardware starts kicking in, and it's just like and then things start like
Yeah.
falling into shape, and that's when you can really start, I guess, molding your universe in essence, because you're in control all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. You're again, you have all the answers. You are your medicine, you are your own church. It's all everything comes back to you.
Mm,
Like it's so easy to point the finger and place blame though. Like everything comes back to self.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I'm sure you have it too though. I love during retreats or any work that I do with my groups or individually, there's always a moment for all of them where they're like, oh, it's me.
Mm,
So I'm the one. I need to change. It's not my environment. I can change by getting out of my environment, but it's not that. It's the choices I'm making every single day, or the choices I'm not making every single day that are affecting me, and I need to change that. It's me. So I love that moment for everyone throughout whatever experience they come through. It's one of my favorite moments.
yeah, absolutely, man. Well, Dane, it's been amazing having you on the show, brother. I think it's been quite an emphatic episode, like, really touching on some deep subjects there, which I know that everyone watching and listening will resonate with. Where's the best place for people to find you if they're not already following you on any social media platforms or websites?
Mate, we are Heartled_Warriors across all social media platforms. Instagram's probably our number one, our most used. So jump on there, send me a DM. It is me in the DMs. I will have a chat. Any questions that you may have. Website's heartledwarriors.com.au, and yeah, just open to all, open to anyone that wants to support or wants to know anything about what we do. And mate, while I'm on it, I just want to say thank you to you to creating this platform as well and getting the more depth or in-depth conversations around this work out there, mate. So I really appreciate you for doing what you're doing.
No, thank you, brother. No, I really appreciate it. And likewise, like I love what I do. My life is now my work,
Yeah,
and we are on our paths. And I think that we're just showing people what you can do. And
yeah,
by sharing our own experiences and allowing people to see our own transformations, because I'm sure there's people that have been following you since they got have seen the till now that have seen the transformation in you, and and you can just it's just to show you what's possible, ladies and gents. It doesn't matter like where you are in the world, what struggles you've had, that there's always something much brighter on the other side. And like Dane said, it's just getting that connection to yourself and understanding like you are your greatest medicine and you are your own church. It's
yeah,
absolutely beautiful. Um, Likewise, ladies and gents, for those in the UK, I'm running our next men's retreat on Friday, the 2nd of May. So it's on bank holiday weekend here at our rural home in Lincoln. And we're running our first ladies one on May the 10th. And then we have a Father's Day special. So the Saturday before Father's Day on June the 14th, running another men's one here as well. So it'd be good for the men to wake up into Father's Day in a transformational state. Um,
yeah. Cool.
but for me and Dane, look after yourself. Please go follow Dane and all his amazing work. And I'll see you once again very soon on Mission Consciousness, the podcast. Much love.